Now I'm joined on the set by Julie Owono. You are the Executive Director at Internet Without Borders. Thanks so much for joining us here on the set. What was it like for you watching the campaign and the run-up to this vote unfold here? What were your thoughts on the situation in Cameroon ahead of the vote on Sunday?
Well, there was a sort of dichotomy because on the one hand, there is indeed the Anglophone crisis, which has been plaguing the country for the past 2 years. But at the same time, it was the first time, and as an avid witness of internet developments in Cameroon, I was very amazed to notice that citizenship and debates were going on social media platforms and on internet in general. So it was a very interesting time to witness. I think we can take three very interesting dynamics from this election. The first one is that it's the first time that a coalition was formed in order to try to beat the incumbent, who is also the president, Paul Biya. But the problem is that it was formed a bit late, only until Saturday was announced that the coalition would take place. The second thing is that the opposition is likely to have a very interesting score, probably comparable to that of the SDF, the Social Democratic Front, in 1992. So that's very interesting in the way that it challenges really the incumbent president, who will not vote this time, probably with more than 70% of the votes. And last but not least, we should not forget that the voter turnout was very low. Some figures that I've seen are mentioning 50% only of voter turnout, which is quite low, and which indeed reminds us that the country is at crisis in the northwest and south regions, but also in the northern part of the country with the Boko Haram threat. So these are very interesting dynamics to mention.
Now, the government had said that it was going to make provisions for some of these displaced voters from the Anglophone part of Cameroon, despite these threats from the separatists. Were those provisions made? Did those people get to vote?
From what we've seen, for instance, in a city like Buea, which was almost empty, latest report talked about 100,000 people who had fled the city of Buea. So the measures that were supposed to be taken were not put in place. We've received a lot of reports from people who were displaced internally in the country and who could not vote, who would not given a derogation to be able to vote in the new city they were established in, which is ironic because in the same time, the president of the Senate was here in Paris and was able to vote despite the fact that he's supposed to live in Yaoundé. So this double standards was not taken very positively by populations. But yes, the voter turnout in the Anglophone regions will be very, very, very low because of the threats by the Anglo separatists, but also with the fact that the electoral body and the government have not put in place all the necessary measures to ensure that the vote would take place with all the security needed. So
you mentioned this coalition that was being put together to oppose Paul Biya very late in the game. Do you think that will be enough indeed to beat him?
Paul Biya, to be honest, is likely to win. I mean, we'll see the figures when they come out, but the CPDM, so the presidential party, is a historical party. They have a presence all over the territory, which probably the opposition has not been able to do because, well, simply they do not have the state apparatus on the one hand, and also they haven't been around for 37 years. So it is likely that the incumbent president will win again, but again with a very, very low voter turnout and with a. I think what's interesting really in this election is that it prepared the post-Biya era, showing that there were credible politicians who were ready to lead the country in the following years. And I think for the country, that's an interesting momentum to remember. And also, of course, remember that the Anglophone crisis, has had a huge impact on the election because the voter turnout, again, was low. And it has increased probably the distrust towards the ability of the CPDM, the presidential party, and the president to deal with very serious issues in the country.
Julie, thank you so much for coming in to speak to us. Julie Owono there, the Executive Director of Internet Without Borders. Thanks so much.